Thomas Vinylnaut time, and now we are here with Sami Hernesaho, the label owner of Finnish Hardcore 84-85, and that is specialist to reissues rare Finnish hardcore. How do you get started with Finnish hardcore?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's always fun to talk about what you love.
Yeah, of course.
And that's also one of the answers for this thing. So, how it started? I started out when I was a younger kid, listening to Finnish punk, mostly bands like Lama and some other Chaos and some other bands that were quite well known already. Even at a young age, you could recognize those names. Yeah. From Suosikki or those youth magazines. And now when I'm a bit older, I started to go, a couple of years ago, I started to go through my own archives and collections, just to check, also with the help from Discogs, that what do I have, is there something that I'm missing out? Yeah. And I realized quite soon that a lot of tapes, at least, I have missed out, never heard of them. There has been bands even that I haven't heard of. Since they've mostly been doing demo tapes or rehearsal tapes, and I started to dig through that missing part of my collection, and a little bit contacting people, mostly through social media, and discussing in the Facebook groups, etc. Yeah. And well, I wanted to put all my info together for a discography book. Yeah. I started it almost 3 years ago, and it's still not ready, but many other things have happened. And the first release under this label was the Aivoproteesi 7-inch, Latte cut, so it's like a really short run. And that happened, well, nowadays you can say it's a traditional way, discussing with a person online that you don't know from earlier. That was Jari Mikkola. And he happened to tell me that actually Aivoproteesi has 2 unreleased demo tracks that were not with the Jalta High Life compilation. Yeah. So then my brain started to go around, and I thought, at least I want to hear them. Is it any chance to get those tracks like copied or MP3 files? And if so, could it be possible to put them out on some format or another? Yeah. And then, well, we discussed it for a while and decided to put out a 7-inch, really small edition, because Jari and the band, they already knew that there will be an anthology album coming out. Yeah, so they didn't want to sort of make a big edition of the 7-inch, and then the same songs will be also on the album.
So it was limited 82 copies.
82, yeah. I think we sold, or there were pre-orders for 80 or so, and then we decided that 82 is a good number. Okay. That's how it started. So basically from my own interest and trying to hoard as much archive material from old guys as possible before they die and stuff like that.
Is it hard to find all those old material that's 40 years old now?
It's not actually. Yeah, it's actually not that hard. It's the hardest part is to locate the material from the persons in question, from their own cellars or basements or wherever. So many guys have told me that we have some tapes, or I do have the original pages for my fanzine, or I think I have this insert, the original insert somewhere for a 7-inch or something like that. But that somewhere is sometimes a black hole. So some stuff that people say that they still have gone to some, I don't know, maybe to trash or something. But as I said, it's hard to locate it, and it's up to the person I'm trying to contact if he wants to put effort in actually finding the stuff. Okay. It could be at parents' old home or something like that. So some releases that I've had in mind have unfortunately not been, I haven't been able to do them since I can't go and push people, like if they're not so interested in finding the stuff. So go through all your tapes, go through all your storage lockers and everything.
I guess that sound quality could also be issue for old tapes. And how do you do remastering for these releases?
The level of what is acceptable to be released by Finnish hardcore is quite wide. The latest release, Pohjasakka Demo 86, it's probably the best in sound that we recorded in a real studio, and we could master it from the original tapes. And sometimes, at least in the collection tapes that I've done, there's really bad quality stuff included. And mastering, as almost all the releases I've done, they've been done by Jari Mikkola from Aivo Protesi. So the first contact I made with him and the 7-inch from Aivo Protesi has led to the point that he's willing to help on his own free time. And that's important thing to have a guy like that helping out, because the prices I'm asking for the records and the money I can invest in releasing the tapes or records, it could be really, really hard to pay the real hour fees that I would have to pay to some studio. And also one thing is that so many bands have so many songs in their tapes or albums that some studios charge per song mastering. So if I have to pay 100 euros per song and I put out a compilation tape with 42 tracks. So a big thank you to Jari for helping out and being interested in doing this. But
your first proper vinyl release was classic Sorto Aina Valmiina EP.
oh yeah.
Why you think that it needed to be reissued?
Well, the long story short goes that I've known Altse, the drummer for Sorto, since my own band times in the early and mid 90s. And of course Altse was active in many bands at the time as well, Tuomiopäivän Lapset and Genocide. So I started to talk with him, and actually he proposed, how about a reissue of this? One reason is that it's not being reissued on its own, only on like compilations or discography albums. And the other thing is that it's quite pricey. For a single-sided 7-inch, I don't think you can get
over 200 now.
Yeah, I think at least 150 or even, as you said, 200. So he asked that could we do a reissue with a very good deal that he will take copies as a payment, and then we sell it quite cheap, as cheap as possible. And very happy with the result. And also one thing is that now the material is saved. Also. In that sense that it's been a little bit remastered and cleaned the sound and everything. So
there have also been many cassette tapes reissues from you, like Reissues and Massacre tapes. Were there any plans to do vinyl releases of these?
Yeah, the tapes, there's one thing that makes tapes for me interesting to release. The thing is that if I have the materials ready and I send them to the factory, I will get the copies in 2 to 3 weeks. If I'm making a vinyl like Pohjasakka, it takes 6 months or so, and you have to pay up front, so it's like having those money invested for half a year before you get the stuff. So, but not too many people, like tapes are still, they are a little bit hot at the moment, but many people email me that again another tape, why not a vinyl? Well, there's also a reason that, for example, the Massacre tapes and the Reissues tape, they are 60 minutes long, and I prefer to release them in the original format also. But Reissues Demo 1983, which is on that Finnish hardcore tape, originally released in the States in the mid-80s. So the demo tape the demo part from the tape, I've discussed with the band that they'd be interested in having it out on vinyl. It's never been released on vinyl itself. Some tape reissues and some CD collections have the demo. But that would be great. It's a good demo with Annikki on vocals, and it's quite rough.
voittaako pahuus will be in Finnish in vinyl.
We'll
I have
see.
been waiting that.
We'll see. Will evil win? We'll see what happens. But the discussions are going on, and the band is interested. So why not try to do it?
Yeah.
Maailmaistuneena vetä mua mukansa, halukas selkäni palupaskalee. Elämäni omani, elämäni omani, elämäni omani.
My favorite release of Finnish hardcore label so far have been expanded Sekaannus Kutsu 12-inch EP. Could you tell more about this release?
Yes. I was looking for the 7-inch copy of the original 7-inch myself, and I found it, and I realized that the reason I didn't buy it when I was younger, I'm not the original 80s hardcore kid. I'm so much younger that I started listening to this stuff early 90s, around that time. But it was available for a cheap price at the time, maybe 5 Finnish marks.
5 Finnish marks, I remember.
Yeah,
I ordered it.
Yeah, which is
back
like
then.
€1 nowadays, or maximum of €2. Still, like second-hand copy could be get that cheap. And I had heard it, but I never bought the 7-inch. And I always had this the memory in my head that it was somehow slow because I wanted to have chaos or stuff like that. And at the time I knew that my music taste was very, very rough. So when I bought it, only a couple of years ago, I bought it for a reasonable price. And I started to play it on my turntable and realized that this is actually real music. Real music in that sense that it's not about the speed and the distortion. And then I got into contact with the band and said that, well, should we put this out as well, because it's not so well available at the moment. And they said, yeah, why not? And it could be a good idea because they still have 3 songs from the demo session that were not on the 7-inch.
Yeah.
And the story goes that they recorded 6 songs back in '85, but they only had money to put out single-sided 7-inch, so they had to decide which songs to take there. And now when we put this out last summer, it had the 3 songs that were missing. So that's the story. So this is not only reissue, as you said, it's expanded version, and also this is how it was supposed to be released if they had the money.
Okay, as a 7-inch.
Yeah, at the time you could make longer 7-inches. Nowadays this would not probably be possible. It's 10 minutes per side or something like that. Nowadays I think many factories let you do 5 to 6 minutes per side. But it could have been done. So, yeah, a great find. I really do like the songs that were not released.
Yeah, both sides are very good on that one. What have you been the most important release so far to you personally?
Yeah, I don't want to put them like, as you know, on top 3 or anything, but for me, I really do like this Pohjasakka.
Yeah.
Because it's Pohjasakka, when I bought the 7-inch for 10 Finnish marks, €2 in probably 91, I think, something like that, as a second-hand copy, of course. I had never heard it because there was no YouTube or anything, as we know. So, and I didn't have it on the tape, but I was checking out the sleeve and it said Pohjasakka, which is like scum or something like that, really rough. And maailma täynnä vihaa, world full of hate. I said, this can't be bad. It has to be good. And I put it, when I got home, put it on the turntable and was like, what the hell is this? It was both noisy, fast, but still some melodic sort of thing. So it was evolved 82 hardcore in the mid 80s. And also the sound quality, it's like, I don't mind the distorted tapes, but it was like real studio stuff. So for me, it's really good, and I'm really happy and honored to do all these releases, but also Pohjasakka, because the '86 demo, I had been listening to it from the tape reissues and YouTube for a long time. So at the time, it's in many ways, it's quality-wise probably the best.
Yeah. What would be your dream release if you could pick like anything?
I have many dreams in my mind, which are well, they are not possible. So I'm not going to those, but. Of course, I was very happy when we put out Terveet Kädet photo book.
Yeah, it was
and
good.
Terveet Kädet is well probably the absolute favorite of all times in Finnish hardcore for me at the very early days. So I would be happy to put out a record from them of the stuff that's not been released, and that the stuff that will be recorded, rehearsals or whatever, before they made the first 7 inches.
Okay.
Probably that. So
Yeah.
I can't say, I don't know which tracks it would be or how it would be sounding. And I know it's on the TK Pop comp, and several bootlegs have those. But as a separate release, 7 inch or 12 inch, no matter, that would be great.
Okay. Yes. Okay, your next 2 releases are Higgs System and Lama cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about these releases?
Yeah, the story goes with, I don't know how to pronounce the Higgs System. Maybe it's Higgs System, because I don't even know what the name means.
I don't know either.
Let's say it's Higgs System, and I released a 3-song live flexi from them with a Kärsä fanzine anthology issue, and it was quite popular. And the band is a bit more melodic than many of the time. And they only put out 1 album. I think they could have had songs for 7 inches or whatever. So the drummer Pyli told me a long time ago, more than a year ago, that they have quite good sounding rehearsal recordings, if I'd be interested in putting them out as a tape.
Yeah.
And there's 6 songs that were not released at the time or released later either. I got a deal, well, deal is a big word, but deal with Sorry State Records from the States, that they'd like to license it, and it was fine with the band. So sending tapes that you can sell for very high price, and then you have to pay the shipping fees as an American shop, so it could be a very expensive tape to sell with all this taxes and shipping. So it was a good deal that they wanted to put out their own version. The only difference is that the sleeve coloring is a bit different. Yeah. But it started out like, first I put out the flexi, and I think they were happy with it because they asked me to do the tape. Yeah. I was thinking of putting it on vinyl, but then again it's a rehearsal tape, and even the tape name is Perälänauha, Perälä tapes. Perälä is the place where they used to rehearsal. So they really wanted to have it on tape. Yeah. Okay. But Lama is another story. For years and years and years I've seen this Lama onks Marko täällä bootleg tape for sale on Huutonet, which is the local eBay, and also on eBay for 30 euros or so, and I hadn't heard the tape, and I didn't want to buy a bootleg, possibly a reissue bootleg tape online for 30 euros just to hear how it sounds. And then I got in contact with the guy who recorded it live back in 1982 in Seinäjoki. It was a guy called Risto, and asked him, does he have like a ripped MP3s or something? Could I somehow get it from him instead of buying a, well, it's an illegal tape, but maybe an illegal copy. I don't know how they are made. But, and he said, yeah, he has the tape, but it's not been digitalized, and he can send it over to me. And then, of course, I right away asked if the quality is okay and it's fine with him, and if I get the band to approve it, could I release it? So all this I asked before I had heard the tape. Well, he sent me the tape, and I put it on my tape deck over there, and it broke. It was the original master tape from 40 years ago. and even the tape had some. The casing had some damage while it was shipped here, so it had broken down a little bit. Some pieces missing, and I lost 2 songs from the original tape. 2 encores were gone because I had to put it back together, and the tape was fucked. So, and then Risto Eronen, who has a great archives of tapes and fanzines and records also, he said that he has a good sounding copy. So then he sent me the copy, and then I could take the 2 songs from there. But now when I had the material, I contacted the band through Joose, who runs Stupido Records and has been dealing with Lama a lot. And then I actually even bumped into Epe, the singer, at a Conflict show in Helsinki quite recently, and still wanted to like personally discuss the reissue and how many copies we could make, and also asked if I could make vinyl, but he wanted it to stay as a tape. Yeah, one reason probably is that also Lama is putting out an anthology album with some, I don't know what, probably the singles at least, and maybe some early demos or stuff. So if they come out a bit same time, it's not very good to have 2 vinyls anyways. The market isn't that big anyways. But still, he was happy with that, it can be really, I was happy that it could be released on tape, and now the pre-ordering is going on. Probably it's over when you put out this video. Yeah. But there's a big demand abroad for Lama.
Okay. Where we could place pre-orders for these tapes?
I recently opened up my web shop with a free version. I can only put 5 items there, but it's finishhardcore.com.
Yeah,
you can do
so
that.
You go do orders there.
Yeah.
Okay. There are many labels that release these old demos and reissues. Why do you think that there are such a big demand for these kind of stuff?
Yeah, nobody would release them if there wasn't a demand, and I was very surprised when I put out the reissue, which is only a reissue of this. In 24 hours I had pre-orders of 250 copies or so. I was really amazed, not amazed that people like Sorto, but like in one day. So there is a demand, and what I think is that Finland wasn't the only country making noisy hardcore at the time. There were Italians were doing, and especially, as we know, Swedes were doing it very good, and the Southern and Middle America also, they made noisy stuff. But Finland has probably some kind of cult following also. Yeah. Not only because of Jakke and Chaos being drunk punks, but doing this quite distinctive and a little bit own sounding stuff from the harsh north. So I think it's that, and also that the prices are so high. If we talk about reissues, the prices are often quite high, so it's reasonable to put out normal priced versions of that. And then again, there are new generations. Yeah. Probably. So every 10 years, I think this could be reissued. Not every year, but every 10 years, maybe 300 copies. So yeah, and also punks like to have real records instead of, not all punks, but many are still into buying the releases instead of only listening to streams. I think at some genres it could be different, but these people, as you and me as well, we want to have the stuff and feel it and put it on the turntable or tape deck instead of having earplugs on or headphones.
Okay, thank you, Sami.
Thank you.
Very, very informative.
Yeah, I talked about it.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yeah.